Okay, for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. Now, before we get going, I'm going to ask if all you guys can stay clear of the stage area here. This way, nobody blocks the display, and I get a little bit of room to move around the whole hosting thing, right? Now, if I could also direct your attention to the menu wheel in your lower left, you're going to notice the very top of that menu wheel is a microphone icon. And when that microphone icon is clear, that means I can hear everything that's happening in your environments. We've gone ahead and we've turned that to red. And this way, if somebody comes into your space and says, "Hey, are you still on that thing?" Feel free to answer them because we're not going to hear that. Now, also, likewise, if you have like a barking dog or something like that, you won't face social ruin back at the campfire, but I mean, known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time. Right now, just because you're muted does not mean you can't express yourself. What you're going to notice is in your menu wheel, you have a pink cheek smiley face. And when you press on that, your emoji panel opens up, gives you a wide variety of options with which to express yourself. You're going to notice, like, for example, when you press on that, like, let's say I say something really deep, really powerful, really meaningful up here, and you're feeling it build up inside you, right? And you can just let it out, just let it flow, just like that, right? Now, maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? The Go Time backup performers, and they come out and we break into Go Time, the musical, and you're all very impressed. You can throw up the applause that I live for, and I can take a moment, drink it all in, just like that. If I ask you guys a yes or no question, you could say yes by going like this with a smiling face. You could say no by frowning like that. Or if I say something funny, you want to show me your laugh, you do a silly face emoji thing like this here, right? And then there's this, right? This is not how you ask a question. This is how you let me know something's gone wrong. So if, for example, like maybe I'm moving my hands around here and it looks like I'm talking, but you guys aren't hearing anything, you're like, well, it looks like he's talking, right? What you would do is you'd raise your hand like that, and if I see enough of them go up, like if I see one, I'm just going to keep on going. But if I see 5 or something like that, I know there's a problem that I need to address. Like maybe this display behind me is caught on fire. That actually happened one time. Sometimes we give our mods Terraformer and for special effects and things like that. And well, they got a little carried away and they just tried to burn down the event. And, I could still see it really. You get flashbacks. But also you can press the X in the middle of the emoji panel to close it. But it's a good idea to keep it open during events like this because, for one, it gives me feedback that lets me know how I'm doing. But also, more importantly, it lets the people around you know what you're experiencing. So the person next to you starts going like this. That means they found something funny, right? You may not agree. You might be like, well, that's not funny at all. I'm going to go stand over here now. And you can do that because this is VR. So you have a question there, JJ? We'll be taking questions at the end, and if that's okay with you. All right, so you're going to hang on to that? All right, till the end there. All right, now, Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're another device, feel free to hang out. You may pick up some useful tips that help the very large Go community in Altspace. There's a lot of Go users in Altspace, and more are arriving every day. All right, now, let's see here. So now, the reason that we have this event is because there are some problems and challenges being on an Oculus Go in Altspace, and we're going to address those. And speaking of challenges, I've been in bed for about the past, going on 2 years now due to a medical condition. It's improved a lot. When I first got my headset, I couldn't wait to get this thing on. Remember that feeling when you first put your headset on, that feeling you were taken away to another world, right? There's nothing really like that, right? And, so when I'm waiting for mine to arrive, I was reading an awful lot about Altspace, and I couldn't wait to get in here. It was my first stop. And when I first came out of the load screen, that very first time, newly made avatar, right? First thing I did was I looked up. Right. And when the sky I saw, it looked a lot like what I remember a sky looking like. And I was very grateful for this. I was so grateful. I started volunteering for Altspace that first day. And you know what? I found that I couldn't make it through entire events. My battery wouldn't last through the whole thing. So I got off to kind of a rough start. Like I'd go in and moderate an event and I would disappear and then I have to recharge my device. I'd come back into Altspace and try to track down the event host, which I couldn't always do. And then once I found them, I'd have to explain what happened. And it, kind of got off to a rocky start there. So I started asking questions, which eventually led to this event. I started asking, how can I improve the performance of my device? How can I fix this? How can I make this better? And I started to hear some stuff. Like I heard, for example, that I wouldn't be able to work, this laser pointer here, right? And, on an Oculus Go. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. I also heard that I wouldn't be able to work these slides here. You know what? That turned out to not be true. I was also told that despite having a background presenting material like this, that I wouldn't be able to host events in Altspace because my device wasn't reliable enough. And you know what? That also turned out to not be true. And this told me that there was a huge disconnect between what people thought it was like to be on an Oculus Go versus the reality of what it actually was like to be on one of these devices, right? And you had, and listen, that's not to say there aren't problems being on the go. There absolutely are. And many of these problems can be solved. We're going to show you how to do that today. And the ones that can't be solved can at least be managed. I'm going to show you how to do some of that. There's two approaches you can take. The first one is that you can start with the device where you have on your head. We're going to learn some stuff that we're going to do here today that's going to improve your performance. Also, you're going to find out a way that you can upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And I say it that way because those of you who've been here before, listen, I can't stand that term. There's a lot of terms like this that get floated around. You hear, weaker device, inferior device, and it's simply not true. The Oculus Go is a great introduction to VR. It's when I first come in, and listen, if I'm on a Quest now, but if I had started out on a Quest, I wouldn't have stayed. On an Oculus Go, you don't have to worry about the vertical movement. So there's less issues with the busyness. You don't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers, and it allows you to get used to VR at your own pace, right? It really is a fantastic device. I feel about the Go way most people feel about their first car, right? It's a great device, and I love it. And you know what, too? If you come in, and about that term, limitations, listen, if somebody tells you every single day that they don't like your shirt, right? After a while, you're gonna be like, it's not the shirt they don't like, right? So if you're hearing terms like this and it makes you feel not so great, I want you to remember something. There's another term that gets thrown around Altspace an awful lot, and that's communities. There's a lot of rich and diverse communities and groups and all that stuff in Altspace. And, and you got to remember, though, it's you that's the important part of that, not your device. The device is only a vehicle that brings you in. You're not your device any more than your house or your car. So try to remember that if you hear any terms like that being thrown around. All right, now, let's start with the device you already have on your head. You may not realize this, but your device loses power even when it's not in use. So if, for example, you put your device on the table at the end of the night and, it's got 100% power, by morning, it's going to have less power because your device is checking for, app updates, checking for firmware updates. Maybe maybe your device is a pen pal on the other side of the world that you don't even know. Maybe you've got a whole secret life you don't know anything about, right? And so your first responsibility is to make sure that when you come in Altspace, let's say you go to altvr.com and you check what's on the schedule for tonight, and you see, oh, look, go time's coming up. Oh, I've heard good things about the host. I've heard he's got this hair and he's got this shirt that you're starting to see everywhere, right? And you want to go to it. What you want to do is you want to plug in your device about an hour before the event starts. And this way, because listen, if you come in on 20% charge, right, or you've got 20% battery life, you're going to notice that your screen is going to flicker and your device is going to have more problems. It's not going to perform as well as it will when it has 100%. So you want to start out in the best possible position. And that means charging the device before you come in, right? Always make sure it's up to 100%, right? Now, also, when you do come in, you're going to notice the very first thing you do, you should make this a habit. When you first put your headset on, right, that power button, you press to turn it on. The very first thing you should do before you even come into Altspace, right, is clear out the temporary memory of all those updates and all that. And the way you do this is if you press and hold that center button on top of your headset and you hold it down for about 4 seconds, you're going to see these 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you. And that middle button's going to say restart. You press on that restart, and this will clear out your device of all the temporary files. It'll clear out the memory, and it really is going to put your headset in the best condition that it can be in when you come into Altspace. And when you do get into Altspace, you're going to notice what an important role body language plays in here, right? For example, say you're in an event like this, right? And you're moving back and forth, you're excited and all that stuff. And the moderator comes up to you and they start shaking their head slowly back and forth like this. That means don't do that thing. They don't have to say a word, to you for you to understand what they're trying to say. If, for example, say somebody comes up on the stage here, right? And I'm going like this with my hand, that means, get off the stage, right? I don't have to say anything. You can see me doing it. But sometimes you're going to notice, right, that in Altspace, your avatar's hand could be right here, but your real world hand might be up here. And when they don't match like that, right, your body language is going to be less convincing. So I can go to wave somebody up the stage like that, but all you guys see is my hand going like this, and it's going to look like I'm going, hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time. And I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying get off my stage. It's a dangerous place, right? So what do you do when this happens to you? Well, what you can do is if you're holding your hand out like this, you're going to notice on your controller, you have your trackpad, and below that you have 2 buttons. The very bottom button, and don't push it now because you're going to disappear and I'm going to feel it. But if you hold your hand at your side, because this button does something else, because when you press that button one time, it takes you out of Altspace. It's like an eject button, right? If you ever press it by accident, you can always press resume and it'll take you right back into Altspace. Whenever I say that, somebody always disappears. Never fails. People always push the button, right? But this you can try now. If you hold your hand at your side like this and you press and hold that button down for about 4 seconds, what's going to happen is you're going to see a white circle spin in the air and your hand is going to snap into place, right? And when it does, take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? Now, if it is, then you're good to go. And if it's not, do this again until it feels comfortable. And only you can determine what feels comfortable to you. Okay? Now, another thing that can happen in Altspace from time to time is you're going to notice that those, that big, all those circles on your lower left, your menu wheel, and you got, your mute button, you got your emoji panel, all that stuff, right? Occasionally, you're going to see this drift around. And occasionally, maybe it'll drift behind you and it'll be hard to reach. Like if it goes behind you, or maybe it goes like in front of you and it's making you feel off balance because it's in your way, you feel like you're going to trip over it, right? It's not very comfortable when this happens. It's important to remember that on Oculus Go, your main menu is in your hands at all times. That button that's just below the trackpad there, right? You may not realize this, but if you press that, your main menu is going to open up in front of you. And when you press it again, your menu will close. But if you're looking straight ahead when you do this, that collection of circles and the main menu button that's on your left there, right? Or hopefully it's on your left, but if it's moved around, like say it jumps down to the right, and I want to reposition it, all I do is I look straight ahead and I press that menu button on my controller, just below the trackpad, that button right below the trackpad. I press that, the menu opens, I press it again, and I'm looking straight while I do this, and then I'm going to find that puts back the main menu button where it's supposed to be on my left-hand side. All right, so if that ever gets uncomfortable, that's a quick way to reposition it. All right, now, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was starting out, like I said, I was having those battery issues when I first started out in Altspace. One of the best pieces of advice I got was somebody told me to turn down my brightness, right? And I didn't want to do it because I wanted to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up, like retina burning levels, man. It was painful, but my graphics were awesome, or so I thought, right? Because what I did was I wanted my battery to last longer, so I figured I would give this a try. So what I did was I would when you go to the Oculus main menu, when you first put the headset on the right-hand side of that, you're going to see an area that's settings. You press on settings, and in the middle of that, you're going to see an area called brightness. You press on brightness, and you can turn auto brightness off, right? And there'll be this big blue bar there for the brightness. And what I did was every time I came into Altspace, I would turn it down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally the brightness was completely off, right? And then I came into Altspace to check it out, and I couldn't believe what I saw, right? I came into an event that we would do, and like I'd hang out with the moderators at the beginning of it by this tree that was off to the side. So I'm walking up that tree, and I look up at it, and I couldn't believe it. It was the most realistic I've ever seen it. The graphics had actually gotten better, right? So turn down your brightness all the way. You're going to enjoy better graphics. Your device is going to experience better performance, but most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. And once I did this, I started making it through entire events. And that's when I found out people actually hang out in here after events go over. I didn't know that because I couldn't make it through an entire event, but now I could, right? So then, I started wondering, what else could I do to improve the device? And around this time, I became aware of, listen, Go users have kind of a bad reputation in Altspace for one main reason. It turns out that the microphone on the Oculus Go is very powerful. And as such, what happens is the sound comes out of your ear straps, right? And it gets picked up by that powerful microphone, and then it gets projected in Altspace, right? Now, in Altspace, we don't know what we sound like, right? I was actually performing and hosting, events for months before I learned what I sound like. I only found out when we got our YouTube channel, and I actually got a chance to hear myself. And if you notice, you got Raven Eye floating up there in the back. If you want to wave out and say hey to YouTube, you can totally do that. Like, turn around and wave, be like, hey YouTube, how's it going? We got Mason in the green here. We got Sean Connery. Oh wow, it's an honor. I love your movies. Good stuff. All right, who else we got? We got Al's here. We got James is here. We got Zine VR. We got Viral Gamer again, and welcome back. We got Thumpy. Got a lot of people in here. I can't read all the names. We got Imagine. It's kind of like I want to say imagination, but it's not. It's Imagine. Hope I'm saying that right. I'm not really good at reading the names, YouTube. I do my best, but you do what you can. But yeah, if you want to turn around and wave, you totally can. But now what happens is, basically, you could be going into the campfire as a new user, right? And you walk up to a group of avatars and you see them talking to each other. And as you walk up, right, all of a sudden they turn around and face you. You haven't said a word, and all of a sudden they come at you and they go, "Are you want to go? Are you want to go?" And that can feel kind of off-putting, right? But it turns out what they're experiencing is pretty off-putting too. What they're experiencing is they're standing here, they're talking with their friends. They're like, hey, what's up, Viral Gamer? How you doing? Well, what's going on? Did you hear about that thing that happened? Yeah, I can't believe what Thumpy said about that other one. Oh, well, I can tell you. And they're standing there and they're all talking, right? And then all of a sudden they hear a voice, and that voice is very familiar. It's their own voice coming out of your avatar. And with a sound delay, it's kind of like as it was a couple of seconds ago. So, this can make it difficult to talk to you. And so the way you manage this is on your headset, because it's easy to fix this. On your headset, on the top left, you're going to notice you've got two buttons. Those are your volume buttons. The leftmost button is the volume down button, and just next to that is the volume up button. And when you press either of these, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air in front of you. Some will be solid, some will be clear. All right. What you're going for is 4 clear bars on the right-hand side. That means that the volume is going to be 4 ticks away from the maximum. All right. And once you do this, now the sound coming out of your ear straps won't be picked up from the microphone as easily. And once you do this, you're going to find that people are almost immediately nicer to you, right? And this comes at a trade-off. You might have to strain to hear people. You may have to ask people to repeat themselves. But let me tell you something. You still have that one good hand in the real world, right? And you can use it. What you can do is if you take your left hand and you cup it to your ear, and do it right now. Take your left hand, cup it to your ear, and you're going to notice when you do this, the sound of my voice actually increases. All right? So that's a way you can temporarily increase the volume. But a surefire way to take care of this is to attach a pair of headphones to your headset, and this will ensure that the only voice coming out of your avatar is your own. Alternatively, you can use a pair of inexpensive earbuds. In my case, my wife went to the library. She got this audiobook, right? And they gave her a pair of earbuds for free. And she came home, she showed me. She goes, look what I got. But you know what? They went missing. Right? They went missing right after that. And good news, though, they showed up a short time later attached to my headset, and they remain there to this day. She calls it stealing. I say it was, creative acquisition, right? But it solved the problem. After this, the only voice coming out of my avatar was mine. Of course, you still heard my wife every now and then saying, are you still on that thing? Right? We fixed that too. We got her own headset. Now she can VR with us. She helps us moderate events, and she's a very talented world builder. So yeah, we're lucky to have her there. But this got me thinking, what else can I add to the device that would improve my experience? And I came up with what I call a Go Plus experience. And I call it this because, listen, I would go into the worlds that, in Altspace that were like very heavy on performance, right? And when I would go there, I would see other Go users disappear into the floor, right? Or they disappear entirely as their devices crash. And, it just wouldn't happen to me anymore when I did the things I'm about to discuss with you, right? So I was lasting longer in Altspace. My device became super reliable, and yours can too. And let me show you how I did that. Now, in order to show you how I did that, I need to discuss the products that are up here. And, it's important to realize before I talk about them that these are not the only products that work. All right. It's the ideas behind these products that matter. So if you find like a different brand or different price, feel free to use those and come back and tell us about it. We like hearing, how things work out for people with this stuff. All right. Now, and the temptation is going to be to write this stuff down. Don't worry. You don't need to do that. If you go to altvr.com and you go up to where it says channels, you're going to notice there's a list of all these Altspace event channels. And you're going to see Ravenhall events like it says in a sound booth among them. You're going to see it down toward the bottom of the page. And when you press on that, you're going to see our event page. You've got a join Discord button if you want to ask us questions, and hang out and stuff. You've got, but you've got all these products listed on the left-hand side of that page if you want to try them. You also have the most important button on the internet on that page. I don't know if anybody knew that, but the most important button on the internet's on that page, the subscribe button, right? And when you guys press that, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content, right? And, we don't get paid to do this. So a nice way to say thank you. If you enjoy yourself today and you want to press the subscribe button, it helps us out a lot. All right, now, what do these products do? You've got the Anker PowerCore battery pack. Now, Oculus says it's not a good idea to use our devices while they're plugged in, but they say it's cool to use an external battery pack, so I figured I'd solve my power issues by starting there. So I got the Anker PowerCore battery pack. It's supposed to last 16 hours. I didn't think I'd ever need it that long because 16 hours in VR, I mean, like food, I like water, like sleep, and things like that. And I'm thinking, so this is a good place to start. So I got this, and around the time I got it, I heard people were having problems charging their devices. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you hook up your device to the charger, you ever notice how the port is kind of tight, right? It's like really it's kind of a snug fit, right? And I would worry that eventually all the wear and tear, right, would loosen that connection and the device wouldn't charge as effectively. And, a few months after the Go came out, people started reporting that they were having problems charging. And I suspect that the port is the issue. So what I got was, at the same time I got the battery, I got this MagSafe cable. And what this does is the USB tip plugs into the battery, right? The tip plugs into the headset, and then it's held in place by a magnetic connector. And this is actually a great safety feature too, because not only does it attach easily, but if you suddenly turn your head and it pulls on the wire, your headset's not going to shove down to the side and you're going to be like, oh no, what's happening, right? All that's going to happen is the wire's just going to pop off, right? And you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You can just, pick it up and hold it near your headset, and it'll kind of thunk into place. And if your microphone's open, people say, hey, what was that sound? And you'd be like, that's power. That's what that was. Now, that doesn't make it work any more effectively. I just still, kind of like to do that. So if you want to, continue the tradition, feel free. Now, this solved my power problem. I started lasting a really long time, but now I had a brand new problem I'm sure a lot of you have experienced. I started overheating all the time, and now the Oculus faceplate on the Go, the faceplate is attached by hand, and this is how it cools, right? So you've got it so that people have different results. Some people overheat every half hour. I knew a guy that overheated every 2 minutes. Actually, the very first Go time we ever did, there was someone in the audience, and we got to the question section, they raised their hand up, and it turned out that their headset actually became pushed in on the side because it had gotten so hot that the other part of it actually melted, right? And this worried me a lot because I was like, I didn't want this to happen. So I figured we got to fix this. And I started asking around, and I'd heard that some people were putting ice packs on their headset, right? I don't think this is a good idea to do because condensation, let's see, you pointed up there. Let's go. Curly, you got a question? We're going to be taking questions at the end. We're almost there. So just hang on to that, okay? So I've heard people putting ice packs on their headsets, and honestly, I don't think this is a good idea because condensation, water, electricity on your face, probably not a good mix there, right? And the people I know that tried this, they ended up going through more than one headset, so I wouldn't recommend this. But we did find a great way to take care of this, and what that is it's AC Infinity mini fan. Right, it's really small. It fits in the palm of your hand, right? And it's a USB connector that goes into that battery pack. And the hardest part about it was actually figuring out a way to attach it to the device. Some people use string. Some people use like elastic hairbands. That's what I use. I use like two elastic hairbands wrapped around the ear straps, and they cross over the headset and they wrap around the round rubber feet there, right? With the silver part facing the faceplate. Now, the first time I tested this out, I was set to moderate the meditation event, which was great because listen, it's a really fancy space. It's on top of a mountain. They've got like sunlight streaming down through the fog. They got the smoke coming out of the bowls. But for some reason, every time I would moderate there, exactly 20 minutes into the experience, I would overheat every single time. It was always 20 minutes, and it was the perfect place to test this. So I come in with the fan on, and I go up to the host, Jeremy, really nice guy, and I asked him, I said, listen, can you hear my fan? And he says, no, not at all. It's whisper quiet, right? And so I turn up to medium. I said, how about now? He goes, I can hear it a little, but it's not that bad. So I turn it up to full blast. He goes, I can definitely hear that. You sound like you're in a wind tunnel, right? That thing's got too much power. It needs to be stopped, right? So what I did was I turned it all the way down to its lowest setting. And spoiler alert, I never had to turn it up again. On its lowest setting, this is what happened, right? I went through the entire event. 20 minutes came, 20 minutes went. I didn't overheat, not once. So I want to know where the line was, right? So I went to a second event, and I went through that entire event. I didn't overheat once. I went to a third event. In that third event, I didn't overheat at all. And after that, I went to my home space. I hung out with some friends, right? And then it happened. For the very first time, I left Altspace, not because I was overheating, not because I ran out of power. I left Altspace by choice. And that was the first time that it ever happened before, and it wouldn't be the last. After that, I became super involved. I started moderating all over the place. I started hosting events all over the place. I was very, very active in Altspace, and I still am. My device became super reliable, right? And yours can too. And none of this is very expensive, all right? If you take a look at this mini fan here, right? This only costs about $10 or $11 US, and you'll never overheat again, right? This MagSafe cable is about $7 US, right? And you're not gonna have to worry about the wear and tear on your port. And then the external battery pack, this is the most expensive item up here. It's $50 to $60 US, but you got to remember, it comes in different sizes, capacities, colors. I don't know flavors. I've never eaten one, but flavors sounds good, right? But yeah, there's a lot of different options you can try, and you could just, try different battery packs and see what works best for you, all right? But all this stuff, it really does work. But after that, there were still problems on the go, all right? And these are more annoyances than they are problems, and I can tell you how to manage them. The first one I'm going to discuss, right, is let's say I'm hanging out in the campfire and I go to turn left. I say something to Adric over here, right? And instead of turning left, I go straight. And I'm like, well, that was weird, right? So I turn to my right to say something to Al here, right? And instead of turning right, I go straight again. And I'm like, I didn't mean to do that. So I press down on the controller to move backwards, but instead of moving backwards, I move straight again. And I keep bashing the buttons. I start panicking, but no matter what I do, I keep moving forward. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. There is nothing more frightening than standing inside of an admin. I saw things in there, man. I saw the past. I saw the future. I saw things. It keeps me up nights, the things I saw in there. Can't talk about it. What I can talk about is how to fix it, though. All right? When you experience this, all you have to do is take your thumb and gently swipe it across the trackpad, right? From right to left, left to right. Doesn't matter, right? Direction doesn't matter. But when you get to the other side, and don't push down, very gently, just swipe it across, right? As gentle as you can, and then lift your finger up and cross over to the other side, and then come down and do it again. And basically, this is going to become a reflex. So let's say I go to move left, but instead of moving left, all right, instead of turning to the left, I move straight. I go, that's not what I meant to do. Reflexively, my finger now goes swipe, 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 and then I come down in a direction that I want to move, and then you'll be moving in the directions that you want to go. This will take care of that. It kind of resets the connection when you do that. All right. Now, what that can happen is you're going to, like one day there's going to come a time where you're going to go into Altspace and you're going to be in a rush. Maybe you're hosting an event and you got to get there, you're going to late start. Maybe you're moderating an event and you got to get there, right? For whatever the reason, you're running behind, right? and you're going to put your headset on, and you're going to see a message that says, can't find controller. Now, this can happen if you need to replace the battery in the controller, but you know you put a fresh battery in that thing last night, and you're still getting this message, and you're worried there's something wrong with your device, right? Maybe your controller found out about your headset's secret life, and it's not happy about it, right? And they stopped talking, right? Now, don't worry, this is really easy to fix, all right? You don't even have to take your headset off to fix. You know those two buttons that below your trackpad? If you press and hold them down, after about 4 seconds or so, a little white light's going to appear on the trackpad. Now, if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see this, but you will see when you lift your thumb back up, you're going to see that you got your hand back. And then you're going to get in that load screen. You're going to be like, man, I am glad I went to Go Time. Then Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about. He told me to double down, which I actually didn't say, but that's a great way to remember it. You double down, and that's how you take care of that, right? And then you get to be on time for your event. And if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right. Now, another thing that can happen from time to time, it doesn't happen as often because Altspace has made a lot of improvements to improve everyone's performance. But occasionally, you're going to notice it every now and then in Altspace, and this isn't just on the go, this is all across all mobile devices. You're going to notice that your screen goes dark. And this is because all the stuff that you see in this room here, this is in your headset right now. This stage, it's in your headset. I'm in your headset. Only in there, rent-free, right? And also, this big shiny red button over here that we use at the end of our events when we press something cool is going to happen, right? That's in your headset. And you may, after this event is over, be back at the campfire, right? And you may not be thinking about Go Time anymore, but your headset still is. And in the middle of your conversation with your friends, your memory's going to run out and your screen's going to go dark, right? It can be kind of annoying. The best way to deal with this is from an advanced position. When you transition to different spaces, what you want to do is restart the app. And the best way to do this is with that eject button on the bottom of the controller, the very bottom button. So what happens is at the end of this event, you turn to your friend and say, what do you think? And your friend goes, he was amazing. He was so dynamic. He did that thing with his voice. It was very powerful. I was very touched. I was moved. It was the most amazing event ever. And then what happens is, and you look at your friend and you're like, I don't know about all that, man, but what do you want to do? And your friend goes, let's go to the campfire. Tell the people, right? Well, tell the people about the event, right? And you'd be like, okay, I don't know about this guy, but cool. I'll catch up. That's all you need to say. And when you say I'll catch up, immediately press that bottom button on your controller, all right? And then press quit when the Oculus main menu comes up. And then restart the app and come right back in, and your memory will be cleared out. This way you can control when it happens to you. So if you're doing like a lot of world hopping, just take a moment to restart the app, and you're going to notice that this happens more. So it's basically a way to stay ahead of it before it happens to you. Now I'm running a little bit over on time, but at this point I usually give everybody out some world building tips on an Oculus Go. If anybody's interested in that, show me some hearts. If you want to keep going and go right to the questions, just give me some smiley faces. Let me see, get an idea. All right, you all want the world building tips. All right, cool. All right, there's an event that goes around. I'm not sure when it's coming next. But there's an event that comes around every so often called Building Worlds, and I'm usually a moderator there. And I've been doing that for about a year now. And whenever I'm there, I hear a lot of Oculus Go users say they can't build worlds in Altspace. And you know what? It's simply not true. The Oculus Go is capable of remarkable precision. But where do people get this impression from? Right? Well, where it comes from is when you go first mess around with the world editor, if you're now remember, you got to have the world's beta enabled by going to your main menu, going to settings, going to general and enabling it. But after that, you'll be able to build in your own worlds of spaces, right? And the very first time you go to use the editor, you're going to go to grab an object and it's going to be going all out of control like this laser pointer. It's going to be going nuts, right? It's going to be moving all over the place. And it takes a while to realize that you're actually moving the object with your head. Now, I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one. All right. So, what you want to do is on that world editor, when you first open it up, you're going to notice there's a checkbox there that says lock rotation. And when you click on it, all right, what's going to happen is you'll be able to go up to an object and you're like, all right, I want to move that laser pointer. Right. Now, if I squeeze and release my trigger one time quickly, right? So I squeeze and release that trigger one time. And now I can move the object around in its rotation. So I can get it nice and level the way I want it. Now I squeeze and release that trigger again, and it kind of locks it into place. Oh, that's good, right? Now what I can do is I can squeeze and hold the trigger, and now I can move the object up, down, left, and right, and then I can play, or I could also swipe my thumb on the trackpad there, left or right, and it'll change the scale of the object. If I swipe my thumb up or down, it'll push the object away or to bring it closer to me. Or by holding down on the trigger button, I can carry the object where I want to put it. So let's say I put it on the edge of the stage here, right? And I place it just like that. Now, that's a lousy position, right? Because if this was the real world, that would fall on the floor right now. It doesn't look very realistic. But on the Oculus Go, you don't have to be perfect. You just need to get it close enough. And then you go into the world editor, you look for the item, in this case, the laser pointer, and next to that, you see a cogwheel. And you press on that cogwheel, and you're going to see a panel open up with all these numbers on it. There'll be numbers for position, there'll be numbers for rotation, there'll be numbers for the scale or the size. And what you want to do is you want to experiment with those numbers. So let's say like for the position, the X says 20, right? And I change the number, do it by a small amount. So it says 20, so let's change it to 19 and see what happens. So I change it to 19, and all of a sudden, you see the laser pointer jump from there to like about here, right? Now I know for the rest of the world that we're building, anytime I lower that X number, is going to move the object in that direction, right? Over there toward Adrian, right? It's going to move in that direction that way, right? And that must mean that if I raise that number, it's going to move in that direction, which must mean if I change the Z, it's going to move that way, or it's going to move back toward the stage, right? And the Y is always up and down. All right. Now I know that little keyboard they give us to type on, right? You notice from messaging each other, right? Kind of a pain to peck messages out on that, right? Or to peck numbers out on that. You just like, point. But you know what? It's a lot like playing a video game, right? When you first get a video game, you're thinking about the controls, like, like how do I move this way? How do I do that? But after about playing it for a week, you're going to notice you're not thinking about that anymore. You're thinking about saving the world. You're thinking about crushing your enemies. It's a really great way to spend a Wednesday, right? Take them out, right? I got it coming. All right, but so yeah, it gets easier and easier the more you do it. There's a lot of very talented world builders that build worlds on Go. They're all over Altspace. You're going to see lots of incredible worlds that were, that were built using an Oculus Go. As a matter of fact, when our events are over, we take everybody flying, and the world we're going to go to was built in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. Right. So if you don't want to learn how to fly, but you want to check out a world that was built on a Go, and this is what's capable of, come on with us. We have a cool effect to take us there too. But for right now, we are going to be taking your questions right now. So if you have any questions, I'm going to make a rate or comment or anything like that. Maybe you tried one of these suggestions and want to let us know how it went. And now you're going to see your raise hand button appear on your right as if by magic. And now if you press that raise hand button, see you appear on a list. I'll be able to take your questions or comments. Let's do we have, I get to feel like a radio host when I do this. Mason, you're on the air. What's going on, Mason? Where you at?
Hello.
Where are you? Hey, Mason. How's it going? I like your shirt. That's cool. Nice green.
Thank you.
I like
I'm about to be a
What's going
community
on?
helper.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. That's neat. All right. So what's up? You have a question?
I was going to say that a while ago whenever you talked about the brightness and
Yes.
turning it down, I tried that and you're right. It looks very much better.
Yes. I was surprised because for me, I thought having the graphics the brightness turned up would mean better graphics.
Yeah.
I thought, it was going to be richer, but it turns out with it all the way off down to its lowest setting, it makes the graphics like really good. And your battery lasts longer, so there's no reason not to do that,
Yeah.
right? So I'm glad that worked out for you,
And-
Mason. That's awesome.
And
What's that?
can I send you a friend request?
You absolutely can, but I'm lousy about taking them. I have 733 friend requests, right? But if you hang out at our events enough and I see you around enough, I'm going to eventually hit the check mark in your name. All right. Actually, I'll do it right now because you seem like a nice guy, Mason. There you go. All right. So let's see. We have Al. Al, you have a question or a comment? Anything like that?
Yeah.
Where are you? Where'd you go?
So let's
Here,
see. Hi. So
Hi.
see my home space. I've put up a frame. I'm trying to remember how to put the picture on it. But first, I also noticed since it's right against some brickwork, I noticed it's slightly crooked. So the question is, which axis do I have to rotate to what to straighten it out automatically?
That actually depends on how the object was brought in. Now, most objects are brought in into Altspace through a program called Unity, right? And sometimes the axis, can be a little bit weird. But what you want to do is you want to first zero out the object, right? So you go into the world editor and you go to, like, in this case, frame, and you look at the X and the Z, right? And usually the Y is just going to spin it in a circle, so that you don't have to worry about it as much. But so the X or the Z, you want to figure out which way it's going to flip it, right? So you go like, X0 and then Z0. This should make it perfectly level, all right? And from here, you can just try flipping it around in increments of like 90 degrees or 45 degrees and see, and just observe what it does. And just by playing with those values is probably the best way to do it. But if you want to get something perfectly level, just zero it out straight across. Where it's just, versus rotation, just go 0, 0, 0 and see what it does. And you're going to see that makes it perfectly flat. All right. Because if you do it just by sight, right? If I take that laser pointer here and I go, I want to make this perfectly level. If I'm looking at it
Yeah.
from the side, it'll look level. But then when I move my angle to over here, I can see it's actually tilted up slightly, and it looks like, wow, I really placed this bad. I'm going to readjust that. That looks right. Yeah, all right. Then that's perfectly level. Now I move over here. I'm like, wait, that's not perfectly level. And now I'm going to drive myself crazy. And all I can do is just go 0, 0, 0, and it'll be perfectly level. It's probably a fast way to do it, you know. And you had another question. There was a second part to that, I thought.
Well, it's to answer what you said. It's from the basic home kit. It's the frame. And
Yes.
So you said it's not the y-axis. The thing is, I've eyeballed it pretty well to be flat against the wall. So yeah, if I can figure out for sure which axis is 0, then that'd be great, because then it'll be perfect.
If I had to guess, I would suggest that it would be the X, you know, but it can vary from object to object. It's either going to be the X or it's going to be the Z. I would set both of those to 0 and watch what happened. Right.
Okay, I'll try the X first.
Yeah, through observation, that's really the best way. Okay,
cool.
Let's see here. We are a little bit over on time now. Listen, if I didn't take any of your questions that you had, what you can do is we're going to be going to a world now to teach everybody to fly. And if you have any questions or comments, I can take them there. So with that said, we're going to go push that big red button, right? And when we do, something cool is going to happen. When we press this big red button, if you look out that window right there, what you're going to see, all right, is a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft fly by. Now, you can fly these ships at the Ravenhall Flight Academy. You're going to get a chance to fly these if you'd like. So we're going to press this, and when the ship's going to come by, it's going to go over those trees, and it's going to land in the yard, and it's going to take us out over there to the academy. So I'm going to push this button here, right here, and give that a push.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Now it's going to go on by. There it is. That's a hovercraft, and you can fly those if you like. So if you follow me out the back here and join me there, we're going to meet it as it lands and go over to the Ravenhall Flight Academy there and teach you all how to fly. And if you've learned anything here today, please share it with those you come in contact with. That's how we keep this thing going. And you've been a great audience. Thanks a lot. I enjoyed doing this, and I will see you next time. Here it comes. Here it is. All right.
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. I'll see you next time.